Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Brief Nerdy Podcast. Joining me once again this week is my good friend Trent
Hello.
and our super special guest Ross.
Hello.
And I,
Extra
of
super
course, am
duper.
Ryan. Super duper. I, of course, am Ryan, and I'll be your host this week, along with my co hosts, as I like to call you guys, since I'm not the only driving factor here, obviously. We got an awesome episode for you guys this week. We're going to talk about a few things, such as the rumor of Nintendo to launch and SNES Mini and a Wheel of Time series. And also toward the end of the episode, just so you guys don't have to skip out too early, so to speak, but we're going to have a full-on Mass Effect Andromeda spoiler cast. So stick around for the next 15-20 minutes while we talk about the other stuff, and then after that, it's going to be full spoilers for Mass Effect, so just FYI. But first, a fun little discussion I thought we'd have. We want to talk about what were some of the first few movies that you remember seeing in theaters. If you guys don't mind, I'll go ahead and kick us off here with probably the first two, the ones that stick out to me in my mind. My very first one was Ghostbusters 2. I actually saw it in a drive-in theater, if you could believe that. So I only have vague memories of it because I don't even know how old I was at the time, but I think I was maybe 3 or 4. I just remember the courtroom scene with the Ghost brothers and seeing that and being like super into it. And then the second one would be The Rescuers Down Under. I remember sitting in the theater as a kid and like wondering why the movie wasn't starting yet. Like obviously we got there like 10-15 minutes early, and it was just at that time it was just a blank screen, not all the ads and stuff like that that run now. And so I was just like, I just remember thinking as a kid like, well, why am I here? What are we doing? What's going on? And then when the movie started, I was very excited. So yeah,
Excellent.
pretty much.
Well, I will jump in and do next. The first one that I have a clear memory of was Star Trek 6,
Oh, nice.
The Undiscovered Country. I was in kindergarten. Another kid was going after school with his parents and invited me along. And yeah, it was really fun. I remember like the full plot of it from the very it was one of the very first movies I'd ever seen in theaters, and it was super awesome.
And a Trekkie was born.
That's right. I was already watching Star Trek Next Generation with my parents at night. That's one of the things that, like, one night a week, we got to stay up, quote unquote, late and watch Star Trek Next Generation if we wanted to. So my dad started us young.
And don't hate me, I also watched a little bit of Next Generation with my dad, but I found it boring. It wasn't until he took me to see First Contact that I was like, whoa, Star Trek's awesome.
I liked some of it with like my big first main one was, well, no, I liked Voyager before First Contact, but and we're getting off topic. But I liked some of them for Next Generation, but really I just liked that I get to stay up late.
Nice. Any other movies, or is that just the main one that sticks out?
It's the one that I know for sure. That's like the very first one that I can remember, that I have a memory of anyway.
Nice. What about you, Ross?
So we didn't see a lot of movies as kids. I used to think it's because we were poor as kids. As I've gotten older and kind of reflected back on the experience, is because I've realized that my mom is very thrifty, cheap in an okay way, not like a mean or bad way.
Frugal.
Yeah, the first movie that we ever saw that I remember seeing in theaters was Mulan.
Nice.
And the reason for that was because we were living in Florida at the time, and we were getting ready to move back up here, and our house was on the market, and so there was an open house for our house for people to come in, look at it and buy it and whatnot. And obviously, one thing you don't want when you're trying to convince someone that this place might be, calm and tranquil for them to live is a bunch of, hellion children running around, screaming, throwing things, biting the guests. So we all went, and I remember we had McDonald's for lunch, and then we went to the movies. And I felt like that was a really cool first movie to see, because I think over a lot of kids, their first movies are Disney movies, but that one, it's in a lot of ways, it's a lot more cinematic than some other Disney movies. Like you get like the Huns coming over the wall, and it just, even now kind of looking back on it, it's a lot more kind of epic than some of those other Disney movies that we watched at home on VHS.
You're more cinematic.
Yeah, well, it's one of the best Disney movies of all time. I think that's pretty easily said.
Yeah, and so then,
did you go to McDonald's and get the chicken nugget sauce?
The Szechuan sauce?
The Szechuan sauce?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a Rick and Morty meme that's currently going crazy on the internet. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Jeez, catch up with your memes, man.
And then the second movie that I saw in theaters was a number of years later, because we really didn't watch movies in theaters when I was growing up. My granddad took me and my brothers and my sister, and we all went and saw Finding Nemo in theaters. And that movie was a little bit of a letdown. Like, I understand that it's a good movie, that it's got some, funny stuff, good material, but everyone was so nutso about it. Like, oh my God, Finding Nemo's the best movie ever. Like, this movie's going to change your life. And it's like the hype train was so big for it that by the time that I saw it, I was like, oh, that movie didn't really live up to the hype. Like, it wasn't a bad movie, but I went in thinking it was going to be like, what? Like, it was going to be like the coming of Christ. And it was like, oh, Finding Nemo.
Yeah, I think I've said this before, but I'm not a big fan of the first Finding Nemo either. One, because of that reason, and two, because I worked at a Toys R Us around the time it came out on DVD, so I had to listen to it over and over and over and over and over again as I worked. So it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth for it.
I was working for the RS Empire when Frozen came out, so I've listened to enough Frozen. Let It Go. Do You Want to Build a Snowman? Love Is an Open Door. I've listened to enough of that if I was a prisoner, it would count as a war crime.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so moving on to a couple news items. StarCraft has been patched for the first time in over 8 years, and it is now free. Free to all. Meh, it's StarCraft.
There was no one paying for StarCraft in the past 8 years anyways.
I already own it. It's on my... It's attached to my Battle.net account. I haven't downloaded it in over a decade.
So the big thing about it is that with the patch, they've made it where it'll play nicely or more nicely on modern computers. A big reason that they put that out was because they had to do that coding anyways, because they are releasing StarCraft HD, which is literally just StarCraft 1 and Brood Wars with redone textures and
also
exact same gameplay. Well, I think it's actually really exciting because even though it's an HD version, it'll still run a lot of lower end systems. And having lived in Asia for a couple of years, like, people there are nuts about StarCraft.
Humble brag. I'm mainly excited for it because I played a lot of StarCraft LAN back in high school, and I don't think I own a copy of it. If I did, I'm pretty sure I bought a battle chest back in the day, but it's long gone, not attached to my Battle.net account or anything. But I never actually played through the campaigns, and it's actually been a want on my list of plays here for the past few years because I've never actually played any of the StarCraft campaigns. I kind of want to do that, so this will give me a good opportunity to do that. So that's one reason I'm excited.
I think one of the most...
Sorry, it reminded me that I need to go back and finish the StarCraft 2 campaign that I never finished because I never bought anything past Wings of Liberty. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for those that are excited about it.
I think that one of the cool things for it is that it's available to a wider audience, not for a gameplay kind of thing. Probably 6 to 9 months ago, Trent had sent me a link of these people, and it was basically, people playing StarCraft, but rather than them playing it, it was AIs that they'd written for their university AI programming course.
That was really cool.
And that was really cool. And the fact that, like, this is such a solid and well-documented program, because that's one of the biggest things about StarCraft is that everything in it is documented because it's all built basically in the same engine that you've had access to since the game came out. I mean, you could build everything. I mean, short of like programming in your own cutscenes that were that quality, but like the editor for it was the editor in which the game was made, and so like it's so well documented. I'm really excited to see I'd love to see like huge contest for who can build the best AI for this game and all that type of stuff, modeling of different strategies, and
that'd be
that type of stuff turns my nerd crank.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
I wouldn't mind jumping back in and playing a random like multiplayer game, like do like a big game hunter.
At least we all would suck.
8-player free for all. we can't invite our friend Josh.
Josh Davis is not invited. Oh, you should probably edit that out. I shouldn't have said his last name. You have to clip that. That was really rude. And we're gonna have a hard cut here.
That's fine. It's fine. Speaking of things from the 90s, Nintendo's planning to launch a SNES Mini this year, if rumors are to be believed. So I am also the variety. So on one side, it's my opinion that the SNES has one of the greatest, if not the greatest, console library of all time. But on the other end of the spectrum, I think Nintendo did such a poor job with the release of the NES Classic. I find it really, really hard to be excited over this.
What part of the NES Classic are you upset about? I mean, obviously we know that you were
Lots
never
of
able to
it.
get one.
No, I was able to
you
get
were? Okay.
one, but I gave it as a gift because that I gave it to my sister
But
who has who has young
was
kids. For
was
them
the
to play.
limited availability the biggest factor for you, or were there other things that? Because there was a lot of bad stuff about the NES Classic.
No, just limited availability was it for me. You know, Nintendo continues to not understand supply and demand properly. And the fact that they just announced that they're discontinuing the NES Classic when there's still hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of people still clamoring to get one.
Yeah.
And now with them announcing it's the end, it's just going to make scalpers even more desperate to get them and sell them off for 500 to 1,000 off eBay now. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know why you would ever spend like for like $300 on eBay. You can get one that comes with like Bluetooth controllers and plays every SNES, NES, and like GameCube game ever.
But that's technically piracy, and some people don't advocate that.
Yeah, I get like why you'd want to have this as a way to introduce your kids to like classic games, or if you just like collecting anything Nintendo. But for me, like, just give me a really good digital store on the Switch and let me download Super Mario World on my Switch, and I will play that for hours and hours and pay like the $30, whatever they'll charge me for it.
Well, I think one thing that Nintendo has not gotten the message on that they're going to get it is that people don't want to buy these same games like 7 effing times. Like, I should not have to.
I don't
like,
know
if I own a game.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think we've proven over and over again that we do love to buy the same games.
No, I think with their online functionality going pay to play, I think that has been a big piece that's helped them out as well. You know, I'll buy it and I can play it online with my friends for free. You know, if it was a game that supported co-op or whatnot. But no, like the NES Mini, like it's a neat concept, but first off, it didn't have like all the best games on it. Like it had a decent handful of games, but there were a lot of games people wanted that weren't on it unless they pirated them. At which point, you know, if you're paying markup prices and you're going to steal the game anyways, you might as well buy a nicer version for less that's, you know, stealing the game.
Or just get it all free on your computer.
Yeah.
Not that I condone that at all.
But honestly, the biggest problem that I had with it was that it wasn't a good console. Like it ran an emulator on a Linux board, and the emulator didn't run well. I mean, it didn't crash or anything, but it didn't run at the same speed. There are third-party people who have come out and created perfect emulators for the NES and the SNES. They literally run 100% true to the original code.
I haven't heard anything about performance issues or the games running differently.
You can't speedrun them. Their tick speed is slower. You'll never get a world record on. I mean, you not never, but in theory. But no, I mean the exact same button input will yield you slower results. They had problems with them eating controller inputs. I like the kind of the task community where they're doing tool assisted speed runs, and I follow a number of different speedrunners. Like, so for that, like on a hardware level, they were inferior to an original NES.
But even you would have to admit that, you know, 99.999% of the audience who is going to play one are not speedrunners and don't even notice those kind of details.
I mean, maybe the people that. But the people that you're getting people excited for them and like that really like having a physical console rather than downloading it from coolroms.com or wherever you can get it completely for free, like the people who are willing to pay for it a lot of times are the people that are interested in those niches or at least want to be able to have that same type of fidelity. I mean, that plus the fact that the controller cord on it was like 3 feet, 2 feet
long.
Yeah, that was a terrible decision.
I mean, looking at the picture here of like the SNES, this probably isn't an actual picture because it's all rumored still, but like I don't want to have like the console like sitting on the floor next to my couch with a long cord going across the room. It seems annoying.
It's like you look at the Switch, and for all the problems that the Switch has had, you know, people complaining, oh, it didn't have a glass screen or whatever because they didn't want it to be $800. The Switch is a well-designed console visually. Like, it looks nice. The user experience is pretty good. I mean, you know, like, and then you look at these things and it's like, who made these? Like, this is just, you know, meh.
Yeah. And if you're gonna come out with a system like this, like, it's really not expensive to get a little wireless transmitter that is tiny, and you put it in the controller, and you put a receiver in the system. You have wireless controllers.
What was the base price for the NES?
Like if
Mini?
Logitech can make a
was
mouse
60.
that's wireless for like $3, like I guarantee you can put a wireless controller in there.
You said it was
Yeah.
$60.
Yeah.
Did it have Wi-Fi on it? Probably not, because it doesn't need internet connectivity.
Nope, just HDMI.
So
power.
you as a consumer, understanding that you're paying markup on pieces, you literally could buy and build a wireless, still same quality, nicer system than that for $60. I mean, you'd have to install the OS yourself, but that cost is negligible. I mean, you just flash the chips as you put them on there.
Well, again, we can all argue that hardware costs are the same, but Nintendo's also charging you for the software. That's 30 games and $2 a game, which is $3 less than what they charged for each of them in any virtual console store on the Wii or the Wii U.
That's fine, but I mean, they're reaping money off of dead IP that they wouldn't have gotten any other way anyway.
It's true.
So the fact that they're making any money off of it at all is, I don't know. I mean, I get their side. I'm just constantly puzzled by Nintendo's decisions in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear the really bad PR thing that they had about a week ago?
Nope.
So they did a Nintendo Direct, and the Nintendo Direct was different for the US than it was for Japan for a couple games. Apparently, there is a game for Japan, and I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but they were demoing basically that they had brought in engineers, because like the handheld pieces, the Joy-Cons, like they have actually really, really cool high-tech like rumble thing in there.
Yeah, the HD rumble.
So they were demoing a game and basically said that like you could move the controller and it would resist you like you were touching a woman's breast, and like they used water balloons in the demo, but like the entire game is about like groping women up, or apparently, or something, or either that's a core component of the game. I won't say the entire game's about it, but that was one of the features they advertised for it, and there were a number of people who were upset who had seen it. If it had come out in the America trailer, I guarantee you that like it would have been a whole thing, but they managed to dodge a lot of it because it didn't come out in English.
Japanese culture is different than American culture. So that's kind of all I'm going to say about that, I guess. So kind of switching. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, just as kind of a final capstone piece, if they make enough that it's not super crazy hard to get one, I might buy one. But at the same time, I'd rather just have a better digital store where I can buy those old games and play them on my Switch.
Yeah, because I mean, really, like Ryan was saying, like the SNES, I think, has the best list of titles of any console ever. I don't think there's ever been a console, unless you're going to consider the entirety of PC as a console. But as far as like an actual console, there's never been one with a better lineup than the SNES.
Yep, true that. So I haven't read Wheel of Time. Ross, you have not read Wheel of Time. Trent, you have read Wheel of Time. Why don't you fill us in on this potential Wheel of Time TV series coming up?
All 14 books.
Woo!
And they're huge, and there's like 50 bajillion characters. So to put it in a nutshell for anyone who hasn't read it, Wheel of Time is an epic fantasy series written mostly by Robert Jordan, finished by Brandon Sanderson when Robert Jordan passed away, for the final 3 books. The rights to the TV show have been purchased. It kind of had a false start once before, a number of years ago. This time it seems to be getting some real traction. It's been picked up by, I believe, the Sony production company. That hasn't landed on a particular network yet that I know of. But I think people are hoping for a Game of Thrones-esque kind of follow-up. And I think people are hoping to avoid a Sword of Shannara, Sword of Truth adaptation, both of which were kind of meh received. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's a really fun, sweeping story. There's a lot of things that I think would be really exciting to see on television.
I've heard other people say that because the show or the books are so magic heavy, that the show is going to have to be altered, or at least be like very, very low budget to pull off some of the stuff that happens.
Yes and no. It depends. There are certain scenes and certain battles that I can think of that are very big. But I mean, it wouldn't be a lot more budget heavy, in my opinion, than something like effects wise than like Supergirl. A lot of the magic effects early on, especially, are your standard like fireball, lightning bolts, um, glowing weapons, things of that nature. Um, so I think at first it'd be pretty easy to do. Some of the later battles get a little crazy, but I'm trying to think of a good thing to compare it to that has good CGI graphics.
Because Game of Thrones isn't lucky where they just show a dragon once or twice a season, and then the rest of it's just people talking. So
Yeah, I think the hardest part will be actually conceptualizing the magic system on a TV screen, because for the people that are casting, they weave these. So the quick nutshell: the magic system is split into two halves. Men access one half, women access a different half. They act sort of differently, but they combine in really unique ways. Um, people draw from 5 elemental powers of they call them threads, and they weave those threads together in a pattern, and then from that pattern, quote unquote, spells or effects come out. But those flows are invisible mostly to everyone except the caster or other people who can see those types of things, like if they're also innate to them. And so that would be hard to realize or conceptualize, in my opinion.
So overall, you're more excited than worried? You're more optimistic, I would say.
No.
I mean, you said that Sony had it, so that was an immediate red flag to me.
Hey, Sony made Breaking Bad, so
Yeah, what else has Sony done?
Breaking Bad.
Have they done anything in the fantasy realm before?
They did some Spider-Man movies and some other movies.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I feel like their TV stuff would be a little different.
You Google it. Sony television. Nope. That's just showing me a bunch of Sony TVs. Google, you failed me.
I'm waiting for it, Trent. They're gonna announce it, and it's only gonna be available on their new streaming platform.
I feel like
Now, Sony usually makes nice with the networks. Breaking Bad being an example of that.
So, I mean, a lot of people point to Legend of the Seeker, which is the Sword of Truth adaptation, which was very campy. I enjoyed it. It only lasted 2 seasons. It wasn't terribly successful. The Sword of Shannara on MTV didn't do terribly well. I don't even know if it got picked up for season 2 or season 3. But people also kind of deride that as not being very true to the books. I feel like it's got a lot riding on it, and the fact that it's got a very diehard fan base that's going to be very hard to please. The beginnings of it are a little hard to follow, depending on how well they write the story and how quickly they go or how slowly they go. I'm worried that Game of Thrones is going to prove to be the exception and not the rule, and that doing a really good job of translating a fantasy series is actually incredibly difficult. So I'm worried, but I don't want to get my hopes up until I've seen something substantial.
That's good to temper your expectations and prepare for the worst, hope for the best, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a real quick tangential question, because I know that you've read some of the Game of Thrones books, right?
I have not, actually. I've started the first one a couple times.
I have.
Well, I was just going to ask because, obviously Game of Thrones, runaway success on television, super popular. But, my question, I guess, is it a very loyal and faithful translation of, what happens in the book, or is it successful in spite of the fact that it isn't? Because my understanding was more that it's, they've kind of bent it where they've needed to in a lot of places, but that despite that, they've been successful.
First 3 to 4 seasons of the show were, I would say, 99% close to the books. I mean, obviously, you can't go into the detail that the books go into because naturally the books are super, super big. But as far as all the main plot points, it's my opinion that the first 4 seasons or so, which encompass the first 3 books, were pretty on point with the books. It's only that they got to the 5th season, which was the 4th and 5th books, because the 4th and 5th books take place chronologically at the same time, just with different characters' perspectives. So they kind of weave both books into season, that they kind of started taking their own liberties because they realized that they were catching up to George R.R. Martin, and they had to finish the show. So they kind of started streamlining things and putting characters in different places that made more sense in a television sense.
That's also kind of thing I'm worried about with the adaptation of something like The Wheel of Time, is that each book could easily be a season of cable television, and there's 14 seasons, and some of those books are so packed that they would have to be very edit heavy. And the thing that George R.R. Martin series does well is it introduces a lot of characters, but then it kills a lot also. So you have a constant refresh of new characters. To spoil a little bit of Wheel of Time, it goes a long ways before people start dying, and there are a lot of characters introduced every new book, and so it's like it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like every time I've read through it, I have the wiki open to remind me who everyone is, because like I know like the core 8-ish, and everybody outside of that, I'm like, who are you again? So I don't know. We'll see how they do, and if it flops, it flops. If it's awesome, then yay.
Nice. Good way to think about it. Sidebar here. Some notable Sony-owned television shows are I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, The Monkees, Dennis the Menace, Who's the Boss, Married with Children, Designing Women, Seinfeld, The King of Queens, Community, Rules of Engagement, Breaking Bad, and The Blacklist.
See,
The Blacklist, huh?
Blacklist.
Yeah,
They get those showrunners in. I'm sold.
Yeah, I forgot about Community, but as well.
But see, that still was a show that had kind of a troubled run. Like they could never get it on when they wanted it. Like ended up jumping to Yahoo for part of it and stuff. Like it was.
That was just it being on NBC. NBC doesn't get enough views for NBC's liking, and so Sony was like, "Hey, who wants to do the 6th season of Community?" And Yahoo's like, "Sure, we have our own streaming service. We'll do it."
At that point, Yahoo's like, "We'll do anything to keep our name in the news without the headline, massive data leak."
Right, and that's the other thing that I think actually, if the Wheel of Time series can land on cable, I think it'll be way better for it, and I hope that's where they're aiming. Because if you can go somewhere like HBO or Stars or any of those types of networks, they don't demand as many viewers as like a CBS or NBC would, and maybe their core following alone would be enough to keep it afloat for a year or two.
It'll be on the CW. It's all good.
Wow, even Trent showed her that one.
I like the CW, but the CW shows, bar some very rare exceptions like The 100, they're fluff shows. I mean, let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
they have good writing, they have some good acting, but they're not The Blacklist or The Expanse or anything like that.
So to go ahead and wrap us up before we get into our Andromeda discussion, let's go ahead and talk about what we've watched lately and what we're playing. Trent, let's start with you.
Well, last night at about midnight, I finished Mass Effect Andromeda. Yay!
Hooray! Much rejoicing.
So as of right now, I am playing nothing because I haven't had time to do anything since then.
Not to interrupt you, that's why I told Maggie yesterday, because I went crazy over this weekend and did like a bunch of yard work and cleaned the house and stuff like that. She's like, "Oh, did you just have a cleaning bug?" I'm like, "No, I'm in between games right now, so I had time." And since she laughed, she's like, "Oh, I'm in between games right now." And I'm like, "Shush you."
Yeah, I bought Planet Coaster and I kind of toyed around with that a little bit. So I might try that for a little bit.
Did you ever finish Zelda?
No, I played it on the plane so that I could reenact the commercial for the Switch.
Nice.
But then I got a little car sick and had to put it away, or air sick or plane sick, whatever they call it, because I'm getting old apparently. And it was fun. I ran into a lot of really mean lightning arrow wielding lizard people.
Tore you up.
Pretty much, like my entire 40 minutes on the plane was taking up that one camp, and I'm like, no, I died like 7 times. Like, I am freaking killing these people. And like on the loading screen, it kept telling me like, maybe you should go around certain enemy camps. I'm like, don't you sass me, Zelda. I'm gonna kill these guys. And eventually I did.
Nice.
You die enough times that you eventually walk into the camp and they look at you and like they kind of just look dejected themselves and they just toss their stuff on the ground and walk away.
Like, we're sick of this too.
So watching anything good, Trent?
Yes. The Amazing Race is on, and this season is surprisingly better than I expected. having cast all random people and paired them up is providing lots of fun drama that the show usually lacks. And the 100 and Riverdale are on a break, which makes me sad. And then I've got 2 more episodes of The Expanse. I think the finale was this last week, and I need to finish that up.
Oh
and then I'll be
boy.
done. Have you finished it?
If this last week's the last one, then yeah.
I think it is. You guys talk. Oh, and RuPaul's Drag Race, which I'm very excited about. The season's going very well.
Cool. Ross?
I like to watch a lot of random different stuff. I've been watching Survivor. It's interesting. I haven't watched Survivor in a long time. I kind of got back into this season because it was supposed to be Game Changers, and it happened to be on the DVR one day when I was downstairs cooking.
Well, that Varner reveal, though.
Yeah, that was
crazy.
That was good.
It's one of those things.
True words were never spoken.
What else are you gonna say about it without going into like an hour-long discussion?
Touche.
It's one of those things that even people who are like not pro-trans, that like are anti-trans, still realize that like what he did was effed up. Like that's just like even people that are like trans people should be put in camps. Like realize that what he did was like just so far out of bounds. No, but that's what I'm saying is like when those groups recognize that you've gone too far, like you've really done messed up.
Yep.
You've really messed up.
What you been playing lately?
I actually haven't been playing a ton lately. I've been watching a lot more television than playing. We got to the break point with Arrow and Flash. Flash this season I feel is kind of floundered a little bit. Arrow I feel is almost back to the best it's ever been. I've been really happy with Arrow. I feel like they actually, find they're getting mostly out of Russia and have an adult, storyline that's interesting and thought-provoking.
I'm actually agreeing with you. I think Arrow right now is the best of the 4, personally, which it surprises me to say.
I was like 4. Oh yeah, you watched Supergirl too.
I can't wait to catch up. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't say to asterisk that. I wouldn't say it's. Arrow has been a lot better quality, but I would also say it's also a detriment to the fact that Supergirl and the Flash are not up to snuff this season right now. So it's just bad when I'm actively rooting for the villain in Flash. So
I feel as excited for Arrow now as I ever have. I think even like in the earlier seasons where like people generally agreed that it was like pronouncedly better. Like I'm this season and like the question of what is a hero, like that just really like is I really like that. I also think that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is really, really good this season.
I caught up on I watched a bunch of those on the plane, and I'm not caught up yet, but getting closer. Yeah, I think it's better than it has been, but still not good status.
I'm way behind on that one.
No, I like it a lot. I'm firmly in the it's good camp. I watched the first episode of the Prison Break reboot. I loved the original Prison Break. I have like several other episodes of the Prison Break reboot on my computer that I haven't watched yet, which kind of tells you
how I know how that goes, because I also love the original Prison Break, but I was going to wait and see how people thought.
I'm hoping it was just a slow burn, but like I've not gotten back to the point that I actually want to watch the next one.
Oh, that's good.
It's not good. Other things I've been watching, The Expanse. The Expanse is incredible. Blacklist just came back from a break with a major reveal that I won't say what it is, but like there's like cliffhanger into is now revealed coming back from the break. Flash is back this week, and I don't know if you guys have seen I won't say the trailer for that one looks interesting, at least, if not good. So mainly just TV.
Yeah, well, for me, I had a lot of time to catch up on a lot of shows during our trip to Star Wars Celebration, either on the plane or while we were sitting for the many hours waiting in lines for certain panels. So I'm pretty close to getting caught up on a couple things. Just a few I'm not. Supernatural and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Being 2, I'm not caught up on pretty much everything else, though I am, which is good. So Silicon Valley started this week, so very excited about that. As far as games go, I played the Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment expansion that came out. I thought it was good, not quite as good as the Plague of Shadows, but still a worthy addition to the Shovel Knight family. And just started Ukulele yesterday, so we're going to see how that goes. I've played a good bit of the first world, and so far I absolutely love it. So very, very reminiscent of Banjo-Kazooie. Reception has been mixed on it, so we'll see how I feel by the end of it, but so far I really, really like it. And apparently Outlast 2 is coming out tomorrow. That kind of snuck up on me. I was a big fan of the first one, and so the second one just, oh, hey, reviews are coming out, and it comes out tomorrow, and the reviews are good. So I'm like, oh, gonna have to make time for that at some point. So we'll see about that. So we're about at 35 minutes right now, a little bit over than what we thought, but let's get into our Mass Effect Andromeda complete spoiler cast. So if you're wanting to keep yourself free of Mass Effect Andromeda spoilers, now would be the time to stop listening, and we'll see you next week. But other than that, stick on and let's talk about...
Warning.
Pretty much.
Salt ahead.
Okay.
Ooh,
so
shots fired already.
Trent, it's the freshest in your memory, so why don't you go ahead and start us off by just giving your short paragraph opinion on the game. If you want, we can come back to you.
No, it's good. It's hard to know where to start. I'm overall pleased. The game has some glaring weaknesses, both in design and execution. A lot of the criticisms that I have heard from a lot of people that were not completely blown out of proportion, I feel like were pretty spot on. I'd probably give it like a 7.5 or an 8, like truly out of 10, like not like, just anything.
Not a gamer scale, but a real scale.
Right, like not anything below 5 is absolute trash, but like it has a lot of really good strengths. There's some really iconic moments that I was just fully emotionally engaged. During the kind of climax of the game, I was cheering and kind of whooping and hollering and along with the story, and felt very engaged. It lagged a little bit near the end for me before that, and the romance option for the male storylines that I engaged in were very lackluster, which was such a huge letdown after how well Dorian and Iron Bull were executed in Dragon Age Inquisition. So I was expecting something of a similar vein in this one, and I was just really disappointed.
I was also disappointed in my romance, but you could continue if you like.
The combat was fun. The powers were cool. The multiplayer is great. The interactions with your squad mates are fantastic. Side quests are engaging, a lot of them anyway. But yeah, like the animation problems are bad. They pull you out of the game a lot. I had a number of the things that Ross talked about a few podcasts ago in some game-breaking loading screen crashes and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend it to anyone. It was still a really fun Mass Effect experience. I'm really excited to see what they've done with this new universe they've created in Andromeda, and where the story goes from here.
Like, I'm so excited for DLC. Like, I feel that every single DLC is going to be a knockout.
Especially, like, did you guys go talk to that one person when you're talking to your squad mates at the very end?
And hear the recording or the message?
The radio message that's intercepted.
Yeah.
I mean, this is full spoilers that you're talking about when it says that the Quarians are coming, right? I mean,
yeah, the Quarian.
We don't have to beat around the bush anymore. Just rip her dress off.
Well, I didn't want to make sure that you guys hadn't missed it or something. You want to go back and talk to them. But yeah, so you talk to this person at the very end after the credits scene and everything, and they say, we've received a message from the Quarian Ark, but they don't tell us where they are, and they've told us to stay away. And I'm like, ooh, like I feel like that was a very heavy DLC tease.
I knew as soon as it's like, oh, there's a 5th arc. I'm like, DLC. Hashtag DLC. Like first hour of gameplay, DLC.
I gotta be honest, my completionist part of me is really frustrated that you couldn't really save the Turian Ark, that you just saved the people and you left this giant spaceship there. And I'm like, I want to bring it back.
So yeah. Something my wife pointed out to me that was weird was like, so they built this whole thing. The plan was there were going to be 5 arcs, right?
Yeah.
Why is there only parking for 4? Like if the Turian ship would have like been intact, where were the Quarians going to park?
Well, I think the arc parking,
Eh?
which sounds funny,
The
uh,
arcing.
yeah, was supposed to be temporary because they mentioned, especially after the credits stuff, when you talk to the reconstruction people, that the arcs were meant to land on whatever golden world your race chose and become like the main hub city of where you land. So I think the arc parking was always supposed to be temporary, from what
Yeah,
I can.
probably. So I'll take the opportunity to kind of give my thoughts. They're very, very similar to yours, Trent. I think just with a little bit more positive. About maybe 20% through the game, I kind of hit what I called rock bottom. It was what was the name of the planet? The mushroomy planet before Vold.
Avaro.
Havarl. I did not enjoy that planet at all. And
So that's funny because that's when we talked last. That's you were on Havaro because you went there first, and I went to Vold first. So I'm like, man, this game's great at this point. And
Yeah.
you're like, it sucks, and I'm like, I don't know what you don't like. And then I went to Havaro, and I was like, oh God, I don't care what happens to these people.
yeah,
But it was really
Well,
funny because I remember you guys telling me like the planet without the Nomad is the worst planet, and I'm like, I didn't really feel like it was that bad. And then I went to every other planet past that. I was like, yeah, that planet sucked.
yeah. Well, for me, like I just felt like at that point the game was just like shoving the Angara in your face, and like I don't know, the game was like all about them for a considerable portion,
Yeah,
in my opinion, and
then even more so later.
yeah, and when I felt, the original Mass Effect trilogy kind of introduced races and kind of let you discover it on your own terms, look in the codex or just, I say more organically through conversations, it just felt like the Angar were all just, we're going to talk about our race in exposition and, just constantly for hour after hour after hour after hour, and then running around just doing nonsense quests, even like the story mission quests on that planet, like, oh, we have reincarnation. No, just kidding. It's just like some gloves that inject stuff into you that gives you memory. I don't know exactly, but everything on that planet, and like the one redeeming quality on that planet, I was like, a Turian! Hi, Turian! There's a Turian here, guys! Oh, you're a Spectre? That's so cool. You knew Saren here. He was your protege? Oh, that's so cool. You're such a cool character.
You knew Saren, he was your protege? My OOC knowledge says I should shoot you now.
Yeah.
Well, that's like, talk about misleading. Like I was expecting to get some real meaty Turian arc, leads from that, and like JK, like we're completely nowhere near where the Turian arc ends up. Why we're here actually makes very little sense to me.
Yeah. But anyway, I rock bottom during that time, but I think my love for the game slowly grew from that point and pretty much reached critical mass there at the conclusion of the game. That for me, that whole final act was so, of just the story missions were so well done. And I actually read an article this week that talked about when BioWare has been the strongest, and I feel that their linear story-based missions are the strongest, because even if you think back to the trilogy, you think about like the strongest point in the first game, which is Vermeer. The strongest point in the second game are the loyalty missions, and the obviously the suicide mission stands out as one of the greatest moments in gaming ever.
Right.
And then you have here in Mass Effect Andromeda, that driving the Nomad on Meridian, and just other of the main chunk story missions and loyalty missions, such as Drax. Like, wasn't Drax loyalty mission amazing?
I'm trying to remember it.
You saved the botanist.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And Drax is just being crazy the whole time. I'm gonna paraphrase his quote, but he had like one of my favorite quotes ever. The bad guy says something to him. He's like, "The only thing going down today is you and your crew and this base and probably all your stuff. A lot of things are going down today."
But none of them are us.
Yeah, he's like, we're gonna blow up your seed vault or whatever, and he's like, nothing's getting blown up today except for you and your crew and your base and your ship. Okay, a lot of things are getting blown up today, but it's not ours.
It was a genuine laugh out loud moment for me, and I loved it. So BioWare's strongest is on those missions, those strictly linear story experiences.
So I'm very much in the camp that the next and all subsequent Mass Effect games should not be open world.
Ditto, because I felt that was when the game.
I felt that
weakest.
it really weakened the game, because I guarantee you that designing that stuff, putting in and it was cool because around every corner there was something new, but they didn't capture the Zelda feel. Like I watched someone else play Zelda and was more engaged in like the world and that type of stuff than I was at playing Mass Effect. And so clearly, like, it just doesn't translate there, or they didn't do it correctly. Like, I
Yeah.
really would rather have choose your. I mean, basically, I want a choose your own adventure book in video game format where I get to shoot people during it. That's what I'm looking for. I don't need to explore the entire world.
So you want Mass Effect 2, basically.
I mean, even Mass Effect 3, like, you could choose the order you went to stuff, but the planets were all completely linear.
Yeah. So I think by the end of things, I would end up at about an 8.5 for the game as of now. I'm leaving that open to be changed with good DLC because Mass Effect 3's all of its DLC greatly improved the overall Mass Effect 3 experience. I would say the same with 2. And if 2 and 3 are anything to look at, we're looking at 4, decent chunks of expansion content coming out the next year or so. And so that's very, very exciting. So yeah, about an 8.5 for me, but man, that ending just really did it for me. Like you, Trent, like I was whooping and like so excited, and like for me it was like 4 o'clock in the morning when I finished because I started like on those story missions like around 11 o'clock or to midnight, and I just like I couldn't stop. I'm like, this is so good right now. I need to see this through to the very, very end.
Maybe we should have had Migo second so that it doesn't end with me shizzing on the game. I guess
That's
it's too
okay.
late now.
Go ahead. I'll bring it back up when you're done.
So I was trying to think of how I would describe like how the game felt to me. And really, like, the best analogy I could come up with was like, if you really like a certain type of food, so like if you really want Chinese food and you've been craving Chinese food for like ages, and you either haven't had time to go to a Chinese restaurant, there hasn't been one near you, you haven't had cash, whatever, but you have been for the longest time craving Chinese food. And then you go to a Chinese restaurant and the food's not very good. And you've really wanted Chinese food and you love Chinese food and your favorite. And so you're like, oh, I love Chinese food. And I'm so excited I had Chinese food. But then you're like, the food kind of sucked though. I feel like that's the experience that I've had with Andromeda. I feel that the story was subpar in a lot of ways. Like, oh, we went to this place and there's one race of aliens and there's these buildings and these buildings are made by the people that are made by the like it just the story felt really contrived in a lot of ways. I mean, there were times it was interesting. Like there were times I was engrossed in the game. I'm not saying I didn't have like some moments that were just phenomenal gameplay experience, but I felt like overall, like the combat was fun. I mean, if you were to ask me to pick one thing about the game that was really cool, it's in the Mass Effect universe, and like shooting people was fun when it worked and the quest didn't break.
I'm one of those people that is really glad that they only introduced one race because you're only one cluster of Andromeda, and even speaking in Milky Way terms, the chances of coming across even one race in a single cluster are pretty astronomical. So having the one race there, and then just in kind of a story structure, the fact that they brought back so many races from the Milky Way galaxy, for any new players, having X amount of races to be introduced to all at once would be even more.
That's a really weak argument. If you don't like multiple races, you're not like being introduced to like 3 or 4 new races at a time. You're not a Mass Effect fan. And you're not playing the game.
Well, if you introduce too many, then it dilutes the experience for everybody.
Yeah, but I also don't know that we know how likely it is to find a certain number of alien species in a certain cluster.
Well, I mean, it depends on if you're talking about species that are native there or ones that have the ability to travel across the cluster.
Well, no, I'm just talking about like the fact that we really have no baseline of knowing how likely it would be for a certain number of aliens to be in a certain space.
And that's true. I was basing that off of the way the galaxy exists in the Milky Way galaxy as of the original trilogy as a base point.
Yeah, but I mean, in the Milky Way galaxy, I mean, there's what, half dozen races that are on the Quarian arc that we're not even in this game.
Yep.
And then there's some that aren't even coming. Like I'm assuming the Vorcha aren't coming.
Well, and I think there are some problems knowing what you know about Mass Effect 1 through 3. It's like, well, are there Reapers for this galaxy? And if there aren't, why is this galaxy so far like either on par with ours? Like that was one of the things that made no sense to me, as it's like their technology is pretty much at the same level as ours. Well, that's very, very convenient.
See, that's what I thought was actually really interesting, is that I had a lot of story and game design critiques that actually ended up getting answered in Meridian. or well, not Meridian, like the little piece that we thought was Meridian that ended up not being Meridian.
Yeah.
Where you find out that like this race, the Jardon or whatever, seeded Helios with all of the same wildlife and,
Yep.
and created the Angarans. And so I was like, oh, well, that makes sense why there's a fiend
Well,
on every planet. Why
kind
there's
of. It's
these
kind of
things
like
on every planet.
it's kind of like, oh well, we know why that the lady on the Nexus's face looked really bad. Her face was tired. She told you. Like it's kind of like, oh yeah,
Well, no, and that's what I'm saying. It's not a good excuse because you spend the whole game complaining that like thinking this just is really lazy game design, and then they explain it in the story, and you're like, oh, like I feel like the characters should have mentioned it earlier on. Like instead of everyone just assuming that it's totally natural for random wildlife to be the same on 5 different planets. Like,
well, and like the
why
fact
are
that
there fiends on every planet? It doesn't make any sense.
well, and then the fact that like none of your party was smart enough to mention that, man, it seems like the things that are attacking us from the Ket are exactly the same as like the wildlife here, but different. Like
Right?
yeah. Um
And that wraith is just like an Audi, except it can cloak and it has bones on its head.
and it has 1,000% melee damage and it kills you in one hit. Oh, that's multiplayer. No,
Yeah, I felt that was
I
kind of
like
weird.
the game. It really scratched my itch for Mass Effect. Overall, I don't think the game's that great. I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I think that if you have time to play it and are interested in sci-fi type stuff, you'll probably enjoy it. But if it was like pick 50 games to put in a vault to save from being destroyed for like time and eternity, like this game doesn't come close to the list.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I don't know that I agree with you guys on whether or not Mass Effect games should be open world in the future. Because one of my favorite parts actually about this game was driving around in the Nomad. Especially during the finale, and the finale wouldn't have been as cool because
But the finale wasn't open world. The finale was you drove down a valley that went to one place, which is where the story led.
well, I know, and actually, like, there's no actual Nomad stuff happening other than just driving from A to B, but it was still really cool. And I think it would have been less cool if that was the first time you'd driven the Nomad.
Yeah.
I think a
Um,
good balance would be the Mass Effect 1 style, just except instead of having a empty landscape of just different shapes of mountains that you drive
Yeah.
the Mako over, have interesting stuff there, but then have the bulk of the story
I
take
think
place.
I think the perfect thing would be to have an occasional level / world like the asteroid in this game, where it's a lot smaller but super fun to drive on, and there's like maybe 5 or 6 things to go to.
There
Because
you go.
I'll be honest, by the end on like Illidan and Kadara, when I was running back and forth to doing all these random side quests that I hadn't quite finished
I
up.
mean, you just fast travel everywhere.
Oh no, I did that eventually, but I mean, you still have to drive around a little bit. And it was like you drive past, like it got to the point where you drive past these little camps where like the drop ships always happen to be coming down right as you're driving by, and they're like, look, outlaws, or oh, cat drop ship,
You just
better go in
punch-
there. And I'm like,
punch
or
the engine.
or we could not. Like, I'm just gonna keep driving over here.
Pretty much.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I spent so long on Vold. Like, I killed everything on Vold multiple times. You'd be like, oh my gosh, they reinforced. We need to kill them again.
Right?
Like,
Because
and
I
then
was
it's like,
hoping that it was like dynamic, that they were keeping track of which camps I had destroyed. Like maybe I was making progress. I'm like, nope, it's just derivative.
Yep. I think another cool thing would be to have like some story areas that are linear, and then have a smaller open world place between like your one linear area. Like you drive to your next linear story area, and so like you have some kind of more constrained, smaller, quote unquote, open world stuff.
And that's like the Overlord DLC in Mass Effect 2. It had a smallish open world thing that you just drove the Hammerhead to each linear section to finish the DLC.
I never played that DLC, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, that was good.
So
Well, to keep us kind of moving, let's talk about some of the decisions each of us made.
well, so I wanted to say real quick, kind of in that vein though, like the best parts of the entire game were the decisions they made you make. Like there were so many of the decisions that were just heart wrenching, in my opinion.
See, and I'm going to disagree with you there. I hated some of the decisions they made you make because it's like there are more than these 4 options. I hate all of these. I can think of 8 that are better. why can't I choose those?
Yeah.
Well, and in a lot of the dialogue situations, that's true. But things like, are you going to save A or B? Are you going to? I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember something else.
those are fine, but like, well, I don't want to skip to the end first, but like the very last important one you make, I was like, none of the above, please.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, the guy who attempted murder at the beginning that we played like in the demo, like, can I send some to community service?
Right? Why are the options like? Clearly, we have prison. Clearly, we
Cake or
have the death. Uh, but no, so there were a lot of times that the decisions were stupid and they were bad, but there were a handful of times where there were key decisions that really were like heart wrenching, like the really big decisions. Some of them I felt were really really solidly designed.
Well, let's go through a couple of them. I think a lot of them will actually probably all agree on, and a couple will have a good talking points on. So I have a good list here. So the first one is your focus on the first outpost. I personally went with a science outpost. What about you guys?
Same.
I did as well. It's the game kind of pushes you that direction because it's like that's one thing side note real quick. One thing I didn't like about the game is it seems to have an agenda in some places. We talked about it before with the fracking thing where like it's like you can tap this water or tap this gas and you're like I'm gonna tap the gas and they're like God don't you give a f about the planet, like you're horrible.
Well, Mass Effect games have always done that. Like, if you don't like the Krogan and don't like the Geth in the original trilogy, you're a monster.
Right.
Yeah, it felt a little, I don't know, maybe I was just more aware of it here. But it's like they're very much like our first outpost will be a choice about our views and how we view the world and how the world views us. Like they very much push you away from going military there.
I mean, the typical Paragon decision when you choose between the Geth and the Quarians is to kill all the Quarians. That's the Paragon option. The game is very biased towards the Geth in Mass Effect 3.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons, and rightfully so, that they got away from the Paragon Renegade thing. Yeah. Part of the problem I had with this decision is that I got the idea that you were going to be able to make this decision again in future colonies. And it's like,
none of the other outposts really mattered.
No, well, like, oh, I guess are they all science things now?
This one didn't really matter, did it? Like I think the only difference was that you could actually use a workstation on the planet, like at a science research facility. You know how often I wanted to do that stuff? Not on my ship, never.
Yeah, I think this was probably something that they had a bigger idea for, and it got cut. That's what it has the feel of.
And it's hard to tell because maybe in the next game an entire wave of Ket will come and it'll get destroyed and like you'll get some important scientific. Like it's hard to judge it given that this obviously is not a standalone game. I mean, it has a complete story arc, but with all the things that are left dangling at the end, like it's not a standalone game.
Yeah, obviously some of the decisions you're making are going to have repercussions for the future.
So what did you guys do with the Kent Temple? Did you listen to Jal and save all the Angara prisoners there, or did you listen to the Moshai and destroy the facility?
I saved the Angara.
Me too.
This is one where I differed with you guys, and I was really surprised, not only that you guys did it, but that the percentages are so huge. This one's 76.6% of the people that responded to this survey listened to Jal and saved the Angara. I felt very clearly, like, to me, like the correct decision, not just like, oh, you go either way, but I thought it was like super clear that you totally should destroy this facility.
No.
I always try to go with the save life route, and when all else fails, I usually try to side with my party member on.
Well, but like so your party member is clearly emotionally compromised in the situation, and he and everyone else that's blue in this game has been telling you how amazing the Moshe is. Like they've been telling you how wise she is. She's the only person smart enough to defeat the Ket. And she's telling you to blow the building up.
Yeah, I kept thinking to myself, it's like, I can save these people now, and then I can come back tomorrow morning and take this base over again and blow it up. Like, if I don't save these people now, they're all dead.
But see, that's the problem that you were talking about with the choices, because that would make sense. Is
right.
Like I wish there had been another option that was like, lie. If you let us take these people, we'll totally spare the facility.
Right.
And then, you come back later and it's reinforced and you fight them again and you get to do both of them. Like, that would be ideal. But the way that it was set up, I felt that preventing the horrible mutilation of the Angara was worth the loss of lives.
Yeah. And I'm also one to try a thing into the future of Mass Effect. I mean, obviously the Ket are bad at this point, but at the same time, all the Geth were bad at some, in Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, but the Geth weren't making more Geth by forcibly taking apart other people.
Well, they were sticking people on giant spikes called dragon's teeth and turning them into husks.
It's just good for business.
So I don't know. Like I was, like it's kind of going to the next decision. I let the Cardinal live too. Like I had an honorable agreement, and I let the Cardinal walk off, and I did not shoot.
Oh no.
So wait, so what is that? Is that the Cardinal's the person that offers you the deal to let the people go?
Yeah, and when she turns around, you could shoot her in the back.
I think I shot her in the front. I mean, the only thing I
Yeah.
waited for her to turn around.
I blew her head off.
I said, "You done effed up."
I think the line was pretty awesome too. I don't remember what it was, but it's something like, like mother effer or something.
He says that before that.
does
That's
he?
an option. Yeah, because I got that too.
That's a good one.
But I let the Cardinal walk off, and then she's like, "Well, at least you humans seem to value your word and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Ah, thanks."
Yeah,
But-
I have zero compassion for the cat right now. They're basically, as a species, doing the worst kind of like assault that you could do to another species in like.
What, like this is ending?
It's debatable. I mean, if they were eating them because they were hungry, would it be as bad?
That's gonna stick in my craw for a bit.
Mwahaha. So I don't know, like I don't think the cat are happy rainbows or anything like that right now, but I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that they can be reasoned with, except for the one time I didn't reason with the second command person. But
Well, except for the fact that you learn over the course of the game that these cat are even less interested in like killing people and turning them into mutant monsters than the rest of the cat. Like these people are getting a lot of grief because they're not killing enough people.
Yeah. So what did you guys do with the Vold AI?
I destroyed it.
I killed it.
I kept it.
Did you put it in the Tempest or did you give it to the Angarans?
Yep, I took it with me onto
my
the Tempest.
My wife did that, and there are some really, really funny dialogue options. Like later, like there's some hilarious dialogue.
Yeah, I loved it. Like anytime
Does it just sit on your ship or something?
No, you end up putting it on the Ark right next to the core of Sam, where you go do your memories, but the other AI is in a completely separate box. And so you hear them talking to each other when you walk in. Then of course you could talk to her and get more dialogue options and stuff.
Yeah, she's basically insane. Sam says.
Pretty much. Weird. So it's pretty fun.
I'd kind of hoped that it, like, because my wife saved it, obviously I didn't, and so I was watching her game and I was like, man, maybe because I'd finished it at this point, I'm like, maybe when the bad cat guy shows up and is trying to like mess with Sam, maybe she'll like zap him or something. Like that'd be great.
That would be cool. What'd you guys do with the drive core on the Krogan planet?
I gave it to the Krogan.
I think everyone gave it to the Krogan. I'm pretty sure that is
seems like such a bad idea to keep it for yourself. Like, yeah, let's start war with or at least piss off the now sovereign nation of the Krogan and not get an outpost on Illidan.
When it's like that's one of the situations that really made me mad at the AI, at Sam, because he's like, giving this to the Krogan is probably going to F everything up, and I'm like, well, like, you never give me advice when it's helpful. All you ever do is come and shiz on my plans, like,
and tell you the temperature.
Oh my gosh, it just tells you the temperature constantly.
I was waiting for the end when you're driving and it's like the super intense like driving part. I really wanted him to be like, Pathfinder, this area could be mine for, and he'd be like, Sam, shut the like. That would have been so satisfying.
This area could be mine for resources, Pathfinder.
All right. Well, who'd you guys side with on Kadara?
Oh, I guess I'm going to keep going first.
Sure. Why not?
I sided with the collective.
And that's not Sloan, right?
Correct. That's
Ray.
Did you romance him?
I started to. This is one of the things that frustrated me. I actually found his entire story way more compelling through to the very end, and like that mission was really fun. That you go on together, like the party or whatever, and then rummaging through the backlog. What I didn't know is that I had done one conversation with Gil on EOS that apparently locked me into romancing him instead. That I didn't realize.
Really, it locks you in that early on? I guess because he's not a squad mate.
Yeah. Well, it's when you go back. It's after.
Is it when you go meet his friend, the lady friend?
Yeah, it's when you go meet Jill.
Okay.
He asks, "How should I introduce you? Like, are you my friend who likes to flirt, or are you my boyfriend?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I haven't really met anyone else, and boyfriend. I mean, I'm not like marrying you, so boyfriend sounds fine."
Apparently you are. So.
Apparently, I just put a ring on it and locked myself out. And that was the frustrating thing, is because later on with stuff with Reyes, you could still flirt with him. And like when you're caught in the when the guard comes up to you in the storage room, you can start kissing him as the distraction. But then it ends with a friendly, like there's no romance options past that. It's like, wait, but I've been flirting with you. I just kissed you in the room, but apparently we're like, for some reason that we're just friends. Like, I was so pissed. I was like, wait, that was it? Like, that was his whole romance line? And then I went on YouTube. I was like, oh, no, there's more. I just locked myself out of it.
When it's like, why does your person have to be... Like, I could get that there are, like, repercussions. Like, Gil's pissed and he won't talk to you because, like, he knows about it or something, somehow, magic. But, like, I guess you can't cheat on people in this game unless they tell you up front that...
In previous games, you could romance more than one person, and at some point they would make you choose. Like, so-and-so would be like, I heard that you've also been flirting with so-and-so. You know,
the most awkward scene with Ashley and Liara.
How do you feel about us?
You mean one of the best scenes with Ashley and Liara?
That would have been really nice if I mean, yeah, Gil's my boyfriend apparently, but like, I don't know. It ended up redeeming itself a little bit in the end because some of the later stuff with Gil was really sweet. But at the time, I mean, it goes for such a long stretch where Gil just gives you nothing. Like, you flirt at the beginning and you go see him in poker. And then there was like 20 or 30 hours of gameplay where nothing new happened with him. And I was like, this is really annoying.
That's how I felt with Vetra. If we could take a side note down our romance paths, Vetra, like, you have so little conversation with her. Everything's about her sister. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like her sister Sid. She's pretty cool. But like, it's all.
I was more interested in this sister.
I know. Like, I'm like, even though you're a teenager, you're a much more interesting person.
She's not a teenager. She's over like 300 years.
No, she's not. Trains don't age like that. She's a teenager.
Everybody's 600 years old plus.
But I don't know. Like, even though I'm still pretty happy I ended up with Vetra, I thought the romance was... I felt cheated, I guess, out of the romance because I just thought it wasn't very well done. Especially when a lot of people on Reddit are talking about like how much romance time they gave PB. I think I sent you, Ross, that article, not you, Trent, because you hadn't beat the game yet, but it talked about how I think PB had like 40 minutes of direct like romance scenes.
Well, part of that though was that everyone that was playing someone attracted to amorphous aliens / women could bone PB and someone else. Like PB and the reporter both had a you can bone me off the record.
Yeah, like a one night stand thing.
Yeah, it's not a one night stand. You can go back and do it like 8-9 times with PB. It's just it's casual on the DL.
Yeah, but she still gets 40-something minutes of romance time, whereas Vetra and Gil actually are the lowest with like 16 minutes each.
Yeah.
Which is very, very low. And so,
well, but part of what I'm saying is that you can't access all 40 minutes of her time in one playthrough. Well, because if you do the casual thing, it locks you out of the serious one, and vice versa.
I'm not going to go and break down, which one is which, but it's very apparent, especially if you watch all the romances on YouTube like I did, that the writers heavily favor PB in the romance department.
Yeah, I would say equally so, if not more. They also favored Korra pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Their climax scene, for lack of a better term, I mean, there's some like
double entendre.
There's some like custom animation going on there. Like the kissing is way different than any of the like they actually took the time to like make their lips interlock perfectly and everything. I'm like, whoa, that's like Gil and I had the awkward like faces don't quite line up, like two puppets that are being like mashed together by a 10-year-old type.
Did you
which is in the end what it is, but
does the Turian take her top off? Like, do you see her topless?
No, you see she takes 0 clothes off.
And I think that's part of it, is that no one really knows what they look like under their clothes.
They look like spiders.
I mean,
They have
their
carapaces.
faces look like birds, but no, I mean, but so like, I think that's one of the reasons is like, Asari tits are human tits, but they're blue, and so it's an easier task to animate something that you have a frame of reference or even a canonical description of.
I got to see Gil from like just below the collarbone up, so I mean, what's up now?
So I'm debating like next time just romancing PB just to kind of see how much better it is when I'm like going through the romance. So she'll be my next playthrough, and then I'll have to figure out which one of the two is my canon romance.
I think you should romance Jaw if they put his stuff in there.
Did they say they're going to? I heard rumor that they were going to put it back in.
I've heard that rumor as well.
They didn't though yet.
No, it's a forthcoming thing. It was what I read.
Yeah, I think if I were to choose right now, like Gil's story is pretty sweet. There's some problematic stuff with like the whole like gays don't do their duty but not having children thing. That was a little annoying. And then like the fact there's just very lack of screen time. I think right now if I had to choose, I would choose Reyes.
I would choose him too. He's pretty charming.
I apparently thought I was just being somewhat coy with him, but just being kind of like a suave individual, but apparently I was kind of bi because he like comes on to me. I'm like, oh, I wasn't interested in you in that way.
Did you give him any of the heart options?
Yeah, but some of those are just like funny banter stuff. Like I didn't know that like heart meant I'm like waving my at you while we're talking.
No, the heart inside the head.
Any heart option. Well, yeah, heart inside the head is just passionate in general.
Well, no, but
full on heart is romantic.
See that was weird.
Ross,
I didn't
never
really
knew
like
about you.
I will real quick say that my wife was really excited for Jaw's scene that he goes down on you.
Yep. So let's kind of quickly get through the last of these decisions. If we really want to have a good discussion, we could save it for another time, but we could probably just touch on them just a little bit as we go through them. So let's see. We didn't finish our collective. So Trent, you said you sided with the collective. Ross, how about you?
I sided with Sloan.
I also sided with Sloan.
If the collective would have came and given me a straight offer, I would have backed them over Sloan. But I'm not going to let them gun her down in a dishonorable fight. And at that point, it's like, well, apparently I'm with her now.
And I didn't shoot at the collective what happened guy. With me.
Like if he would have came and been like, listen, like we're going to take this over and make it better. Like we can throw Sloan out. I would have been like, done. Sign me up.
Yeah, but the fact he had to cheat with a sniper, that I was like, nope, you're not doing that.
I didn't care. I mean, I'm sure that being attracted to him was part of it, but did you guys kill him or?
I shot him. Yep.
Damn.
Well,
it doesn't kill him though. It
you
hits
can't
him
kill him. You shoot him in the shoulder, right?
Yeah, and then he sends you an email later. It's like, I can't believe you would shoot me a man in the back after all you've been through. And I'm like, I didn't really mean like shoot you in the back.
How are you gonna? If you were lying in wait with a sniper to ambush someone you're supposed to be fighting, don't give me any bullshit about shooting someone in the back. Like,
yeah,
right
off.
I think he meant more like as a friend because you guys had worked together, whereas he and Sloan were obviously enemies. I don't know. I mean, Sloan had proven herself to be an absolutely terrible person, so I had no qualms whatsoever.
And this is also something that I guess was kind of a cheat on my part, but Sloan is a main character in the book, The Nexus Uprising. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not the first person view, but a main view character. And so like I kind of got to know a lot about like Sloan and how she worked and what she believed, what she thought. And, not to go any spoilers to the book, but I pretty much agreed with her and at a lot of decisions she made during the uprising and stuff like that. And so
when it's like she's someone who gets stuff done. Like you have these, like that's one thing that really annoyed me about the people in the Nexus was it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? We have nowhere to go. We're stuck here. And it's like, no, there's tons of effing planets that are fine to live on right now. They have some problems, but clearly people are making it work. Why are you all so incompetent?
Yeah. So, like I said, I probably would have gone with the collective. I mean, I was pretty on the fence, but more towards their side. But I didn't like the fact he was cheating and was just going to gun Sloan down when he
Yeah,
brought
that's,
her there in the guise of like, let's settle this and stuff like that. So
because addicting all your people to a manufactured drug and beating them in the streets if they don't pay their protection money, that's so much better than shooting someone with a sniper.
You know what? That protection doesn't come free.
Anyway, let's keep going.
it's funny, that one on Reddit was actually pretty much split right down the middle. Nearly.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny. Asari Pathfinder, did you expose her deeds and replace her, exonerate her, or expose her and let her keep her job?
I exonerated her.
I exonerated her as well.
Me too. We all agree on that one.
My thought was that these people need a leader. They've had enough loss. She can bear the shame of what she did privately.
Yep. Same.
Plus, it was terrible. It was kind of nice to knock Cora down a peg or two.
I liked that it freed Cora either way because Cora knew what had happened, and it allowed her to free herself of her hero worship, and grow that way. But as well,
guys, did you know that she served on a Asari Commando unit?
Did you know that even though I'm the Pathfinder now and she's totally okay with it, we're totally effed unless we find this other Pathfinder who's going to have all the answers?
Wow, I'm sensing some Cora hate.
I have lots of Cora hate. So
She was with me the entire game. I love Cora.
She was with me the entire game, but only because she had the ability that restored shields and then eventually life. And on the difficulty I was playing on, that was a necessity.
Yep, I didn't really like her personality, and I was a Vanguard, so she had no place on my team.
Or in your heart.
Or in my heart.
I think it'll take too long to get into that discussion right now, so I'll let it go.
Okay, let it go. But next time. All right. See, Kalinda, did you choose to save her life and let the tech go, or did you shoot her and grab the tech?
I saved her, but I kind of didn't want to. If PB hadn't said to save her, I wouldn't have saved her. I would have shot her.
This is one of the decisions that made me madder than any of the others. Because it's like, I had Cora with me. Cora's like a master biotic person. There are people who their Pathfinder, whoever they are, is a master biotic person. Why don't you just grab the tech?
Yeah, create a little bubble under it.
It was so
launch
stupid.
it over here.
I shot her.
I also shot her.
She broke into my ship. She stole stuff from my ship. She was trying to hurt the person that I loved.
She sent dozens of people to their deaths to fight you, to stall you.
There was a chance that maybe PB would want to go back to her later on. It tied up a lot of ends, really nicely for me to have her out of the picture.
So how did PB react to that?
She was initially mildly
she was sad
irritated
for about 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. Whereas in my play, Kalinda and all of her people that are left are people that show up and help you fight in the end.
I heard that, yeah.
You know what? We won anyways. It wasn't a big loss.
Also, Reyes was there to help me too, so F all y'all.
No, we had Sloan there, so
I'm sure she was there.
So yeah, nice. Yeah, we totally needed that tech. What
did it do anything?
No, it did nothing at all.
Of course not.
Right. It's probably a next game thing, maybe, but
it'll give you 5 more galactic readiness points.
Helios remnant research points.
Yeah.
Well, no, it'll give me more points to take people out of cryo, except that maxes out at level 20, even though a third of the people are still in cryo, and I have 50,000 points beyond the number I need to unlock the next people.
Yeah, I don't think I maxed my AVP, but I finished the game at 94%, and so I don't know how you got so much further.
I also maxed out mine by a pretty good bit.
I wonder if you did a ton more tasks than I did or something.
Possibly.
I had a ton of unfinished tasks. After the first one on EOS, where they didn't tell you where to find all the bodies and they could spawn in random places, I'm like, nope, F this.
Yep.
No more tasks.
It's worse than finding Korok seeds. I mean, there's 900 Korok seeds, but at least they're always in the same spot.
Yep, I'll do the other 3 folders to completion, but this one can go F itself.
All right, well, what about the Rokar standoff on Jaw's loyalty mission? I think we all did the same thing.
We all didn't shoot, I'm assuming.
Whatever I should. No, I didn't. I didn't shoot him.
That was a pretty badass moment.
It was.
Bad A moment.
Shame on you.
I know, I'm sorry. We have the explicit content warning now. All the children are going to be sad.
No, there's a donkey there, and he's very evil.
He's very bad.
It's a bad
That's
donkey
okay.
moment.
Ross has already talked about freaking touching people's boobs with Nintendo Switches and jaw going down on people, so I'm sure you saying that isn't going to be a big deal.
And putting people in camps.
So Turian Pathfinder, I'm sure we all did the same thing. We convinced
I don't know.
Abductus to...
I'm surprised that's really like a choice that you had to make.
Yeah.
4.8% of people didn't convince him.
Apparently. I was always wondering, like, did they just not, were they not able to, or they just like, whatever, you can do whatever you want.
Well, I actually felt a little bad making him do it, because it's like, I mean, you did sign up for this, but like I considered being like, do whatever you feel is right, rather than giving him a strong push.
Yeah. I'm not the only one who saw that, like, him and the Pathfinder were a lot more than just friends, right?
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah, I think they
a
were.
couple.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I'm always like wondering, like, if I read too much into things like that, just because I'm like hoping for there to be, like a gay romance or whatever. But like, I thought it was pretty sweet, actually, some of the recordings. And when we found out that he didn't make it, I was like really sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
like,
a really well done story.
I was like, no, I rescued all the other ones.
All right. What about this? This is probably one of the hardest choices in the game for me.
Yeah.
It was the Solarian Pathfinder versus the Krogan Scouts.
Oh my gosh.
I played through this option 5 times,
Really?
Going back and forth on what to do.
Yeah, I sat there with this on my screen. Like, I'm glad it wasn't one of those interrupt decisions, because I was like, I have no idea. Like, Drax gonna like maybe leave my ship, like, or try to kill me. Like, I'm gonna have flashbacks of Rex over here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's like Reika had just saved my life, and I feel like I had to go save her because I owed her. And like these random Krogan, he's like, I'm sorry, but like it's not my fault they're captured, and like I came here to save the Solarians, and we don't know that exaltation is irreversible. Lexi just tells you that it is, which she could be wrong. So I feel like we saved lives for sure, and saved the woman who just saved my life. That was kind of my feel on it. So I saved Reika.
Did either of you have Drac with you in your party during that mission?
No,
What happens?
It was just bad. Like he's arguing with you like the whole time you're making the decision, so it just makes it 10 times worse. He's like, if you leave those Krogan scouts, you're condemning them to a fate worse than death. I'm just like, ah!
But you just saved Reika, right?
I did. Yeah, I did save the Solarian Pathfinder, but it
just... I saved her as well, but I have regret. I think that was the wrong decision.
You think so?
Looking back on it, I regret it.
How so? She was nothing but fantastic to you through the rest of the game, and Drac comes around after you do his loyalty mission.
Yeah, I felt like finding a Solarian that I could trust was pretty rare, so I wanted to salvage that relationship.
Yeah, we're like, listen, if I bring you back, can you take over for Tan?
Please.
So yeah, why else do you think it was a bad decision, Ross?
I feel like the scouts were out there trying to help, trying to do their own, like trying to make the initiative work, and got snatched up in this. Whereas I feel that Reika knew when she walked in what she was signing up for. I feel that if you're going to put yourself in a position where you're willing to walk into fire, and you know that you may not get pulled out, that you take second seat to someone who's just trying to do the right thing but didn't really know what they were getting into and got caught up in it.
See, I'm not sure about the timeline of that, because I'm wondering, had the Krogan already left the initiative at that point? I don't know if it matters, but
I think they did, yeah.
Because at that point, it's kind of like, you're not necessarily my allies.
You brought them back in by that point, though.
I had not.
Oh, so that makes a big difference. I was done with everything. I did the Archon line at the end. So I had already given them the core and made them my allies at that time.
I was getting bored of not being able to advance my romance options, and so I went and did that before I was done with Kadara and Illidan.
Probably would have been for the best, because I did the same thing. I saved Darkron ship for very last. So
see, so that's interesting, because I think that severely shifts your your view on it. Like, if I hadn't already met the Krogan and like gone through all that stuff, no, I totally wouldn't have saved his people.
Huh.
Which I
Yeah,
mean, I
it's
didn't
interesting.
anyways. But
That is fascinating.
All right. So when the Ket Primus came to you and offered her deal, did you guys take it?
No.
told her to F off.
Yep.
Yeah, me too. I debated it though because I didn't see a lose situation for me.
But see, here's the
really.
thing:
Do
more
you see
people.
her again? Or him?
You see her when you see him when you do the attack. I think he's there and he's like, we'll have it do it this way instead or something.
Was that the guy that cloaks? Like the boss that kept cloaking?
I don't remember, to be
He
honest.
was like called like the Sword of the Archon or something. Like I don't ever remember seeing this guy again. And I'm thinking it's the like it looks just like the one that turns around at the very end in the cutscene.
Yeah, I think that might be the one. The sword was definitely not.
I don't understand how more people decided to ally themselves with him than decided to blow up the base when the Moshe told them to.
Because that was the wrong choice.
These people are stupid.
So yeah, we all agree on dealing with the Ket Primus there. So Dr. Aiden, did you arrest him or not arrest him for his treachery?
Remind me what that one is. It's been a while since I finished the game.
Solarian STG guy that you kind of go and like solve a mystery for him, and then you find out he was lying to you.
It's they had basically agreed to turn themselves over to the Ket to learn more about the Ket secrets while the Ket tried to figure out how to exalt them. So the Solarian idea behind it was we're going to turn over all of our people to this horrible alien, but hope that we can figure them out faster than they can figure out how to exalt us. So that was that kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, good explanation. So did you guys arrest him
I
or
remember
not
now.
make him?
I did not.
I did not either.
I also did not. Well, we're all in the minority.
I was getting ready to defend myself on this one. I was like, oh.
Well, so my thing was that we already got him back.
Yep.
Like, it's kind of like the Nazis did some really horrible things, obviously, but they also had some really great scientific breakthroughs as a result.
What's with you and Nazis on this podcast? I mean,
no, it's
you just
so
keep going to Nazis.
The Cardassians did some really horrible things to the.
Well, to be honest, earlier you just said putting people in camps, and that's not necessarily Nazis. A lot of people have done that, including our country.
I mean, yeah, the American government did that to the Japanese.
Yeah, it's kind of my thing. Like the damage is already done. He has this information that'll be super useful in the fight against the Ket going forward, and it doesn't do anything but hurt us to arrest him.
Yeah, there was no upside to arresting him.
Yeah, other than justice.
Which clearly isn't a thing we care about in Andromeda because
Obviously.
Attempted murder carries a penalty of convicted for the wrong crime or pardoned.
Right.
And then the final choice for the game, who did you choose for the ambassador?
I want Ross to answer first because I'm super curious.
I really wanted to go with Morta, but I went with the Moshe.
Interesting. Ryan?
I went with Augustus Bradley for mine.
I chose Morta.
Which is probably the most surprising thing I've heard all night.
I didn't hate her as much as I thought I was. I mean, she's obviously very abrasive and treats you like crap at the beginning, but I mean, the Nexus had completely effed them over up to that point. And all the stuff that you learn about her from like Drac or whatever his name was, is all circumstantial. Like all of it could be crap. Like the fact that she was going to build a bomb and blow up the Nexus and all this stuff, all bullcrap.
True, but you got a lot of people like Drac knew her and was kind of friends with her, but then like before you even get to see her, you hear people. I think there's Krogan on another planet. I think even that was like, she's crazy now, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you know what? She went out and made a settlement where none of these other jackholes sitting around on the Nexus were. Like, she went and did what we came here to do.
Yep. And she honored everything that she had done with me anyway. To be honest, this is my main decision in the game where I'm like, none of the above, please. Can I have can I phone a friend?
To be honest, I would have chosen Kesh as number one.
I would have loved to choose Kesh. I think she would have been the best choice. We put a Krogan in charge to heal that bond. It's someone
Yeah.
we know that is responsible and smart. I think that would have been the best decision.
I wanted to be like, listen, I'll be in charge. I'm clearly the best choice because I've made all the choices this far. And if
Right?
you're worried about people thinking that I only killed the Archon to like elevate myself, I'll find a planet that has some Ket and I'll drop them off there and let's see if they want to elevate themselves.
Yeah, I totally see your point, Trent, because the Krogan once again got the short end of the stick, and so to
Yeah.
raise one up and to have try to heal that bond is definitely something I wanted to do.
Well,
and
it's
at that
anybody
point, I
before
was so done with Tan and Addison that
right.
either of their suggestions, I'm like, I'm just F you, no. So like it wasn't going to be Bradley and it wasn't going to be Rika, even though I like Rika a lot. But like Tan supported her, and I was like, I don't want people thinking that I'm like Tan's, like do-gooder. So for me, it was either the Moshai or Morta, and I was like, well, the Krogan have been effed over a number of times, and the Angara seem to like us enough already. So I chose the Krogan.
Yep. I went with the Moshe simply because I felt like this was their home and we were the visitors there. And we
Yeah.
needed to make sure that we respected like their sovereignty and whatnot.
Not only is it their home, but we find out that it's literally made for them.
Well,
Like
so,
all these golden worlds literally belong to them as of like inheritance in terms of like.
There's an interesting piece at the end of the game, I think after the credits roll, where it's talking about the fact that they were created by, the Jardin and all this stuff. And it talks specifically about the way that like memories can be awakened in them using tech combined with their biology, like the glove that helped the person remember.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a really ominous thing about it's basically like you hear a log and then afterwards it's like deleted log, and it's something that Sam recovered. And they're talking about the fact that it's completely possible that there is a signal from the Jardin that can be flipped that will completely overwrite the personalities and the directives of all of the Angaran. That because of the way that they have been created and programmed, that you can take control of their programming and slave them.
I totally missed this.
It's on one of the
stuff
consoles.
For sequels.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it's actually fairly ominous.
So I know we're coming up to our. Huh?
He still chose the Moshe.
Right?
I didn't. You read it after you choose the Moshe, and I'm like, crap.
Well, and to be fair, like, I mean, this is like the person who's supposed to be in charge for a couple years until the first election happens. So their possible damage is hopefully minimal. Hopefully.
There was one question that came up in the game that I thought was really neat that wasn't on this list. So your pilot helped build the ship and has like some crazy eidetic memory where it's like all of his stuff is happening at once, and so he's really connected with the ship and the people that built it and all this stuff. And then you have Gil, who likes to take shiz apart for no good reason.
It's not no good reason.
Trent's love interest. And so they kind of have.
Or like how one side you made that argument.
Yeah, I wonder who you like better.
Gil wasn't my love interest, but
no, but and so I'd already found a Solarian that I liked. So they butt heads throughout the entire thing, and finally in the end, you have to choose one of them to side with against the other for how the ship is going to be run. And I actually did side with Gil in the end because it's like, listen, I'm glad that you designed this thing in a lab, but welcome to the real world kind of thing. But like, I assume that Trent, you definitely went with Gil for the, sticking by, the one you love. But
I also went with Gil on that.
I felt a little guilty about it. I'm like, I feel like this is the right choice, but I felt really bad for the pilot.
You felt guilty.
Oh, freak. Have you guys heard about the names that he wants to name your kids if you choose him as a love interest?
Nope.
Oh.
Are they all ILL names? Like, because his friend is Jill and he
wants Mary for a girl and Diane for a boy because Meridian.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. And he asks you, like, those are pretty great, right? And I'm like, it's either yeah or no. And I was like, I don't want to like piss off my recently apparently engaged future father of my children. So I'm like, I guess they're okay. And he's like, I knew you'd like it. I'm like, God damn it.
Nice.
How exactly are you two going to have a kid?
Jill is going to be our surrogate.
There you go.
So,
All right. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap up this spoiler cast? Or any other topics you want to mention?
I thought the last boss sucked.
I thought it was fun.
I also
Like-
thought it was fun. I mean,
I thought the whole like fighting all the remnant while the architect is shooting at you, and you can't really destroy the architect because he's the architect, and like how they brought your sibling into it. I thought that was all really cool.
yeah, it's always very exciting that he took control of all the remnants. So you're basically just fighting the Archon in the different forms.
I'll be honest, the little segment at which you have to take over, like you play as your sibling for a minute and run through the Hyperion, I was like, this is the crappiest pistol in existence.
I loved it so much. I thought it was the best.
But like
because-
15 headshots to kill a regular cat? Come on.
Well, but it's because she's not as skilled as you are. You're all skilled up.
But it's
Like-
headshots. I was making headshots.
No, I thought it was awesome because I thought it, like, a lot of times you lose sight of like how your character's grown and like your power level and stuff, and like jumping back to what you had to start.
I did like that aspect of it. I mean,
That
like,
was super cool.
I wouldn't have minded like 4 or 5 headshots to kill the thing, but like it's like it says like 8 or 9 or 10 headshots to down one of these things. I'm like, well, it's a good thing this thing comes with 70 bullets because I'm gonna need all of them.
Yeah, you can actually do that whole part without ever shooting if you just throw grenades in the right places because there's almost always like boxes to refill grenades from. It was really tough though if you tried to shoot them.
That's fair. But no, yeah, I mean, I feel like we need a part 2 because there's a lot more stuff that I would like to talk about.
Yeah, we could do that.
That I don't necessarily want to go on for another 2 or 3 hours. Because I'd love to hear everyone's favorite planet, everyone's favorite squad mate, thoughts on the Nomad in general, different area, like different aspects of certain side quests. Like, there's a whole lot of things I think we can still talk about.
I'm totally up for that.
I'm
Sweet.
down.
Give you more time to digest since you just beat it 24 hours ago.
True story. So maybe in 2 weeks or something,
Yeah, let's plan that.
give our listeners a break too.
One because we haven't talked any review for the multiplayer, and I have some very strong opinions on that.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
What
I
don't
need
you
to,
have strong opinions
and
on?
actually, I need to play some multiplayer again because I've purposefully like declined playing because I wanted to finish the story. So now I can play multiplayer. Yay! We should go play something right now. But
Well,
yeah,
let's do it right now, live on the podcast. It's Mass Effect multiplayer. No, not really.
go to our Twitch channel, but we don't have.
This
Uh,
podcast is going to auto forward you to Twitch, and we're going to be playing. It doesn't matter when you're listening to it.
That's right. Doesn't matter.
So yeah, that was a great discussion. I'm totally with you, Trent, in picking it back up and continuing it sometime.
Nice.
And as we all know, the Mass Effect discussions are never going to end, if we're being honest.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm assuming we're going to hear, hopefully in the next few weeks, some talk about some DLC. So
Hopefully,
When's
all
E3?
June.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
It'd be a good time. And like I said, if Mass Effect 2 and 3 are anything to go off of, they had 4 released within 1 year. So
I'm excited.
All
Ooh,
right,
I guess I think that'd be a kind of a cool thing to end on. Aside from the Quarian arc, do you have any predictions for story DLC?
ooh, that is a good question.
I think we'll see a Jardin DLC. We'll find some sort of underground cache of information on them that kind of fleshes out a little bit more of who they are. Because I think our next game will be more about them. Well, because the one thing that we haven't really touched on here that was a big revelation in the game, to me at least, was so the Scourge is a weapon that was built to destroy the Jardin.
Yep. We have no idea from who.
And we don't know who made it. It certainly wasn't the Ket.
Yep.
Dun dun dun.
That's like there's some really cool stuff that we don't know yet, and I'm excited about that.
Mhm.
So
Hopefully, the game sells a lot and they actually make a sequel.
yay!
I don't know. I saw on PC Gamer it's like the worst game ever.
Any predictions for you, Ryan?
That's a good question. Within the confines of the Andromeda universe, I can't think of anything. The only thing I can think of besides the Quarian arc things are just more Milky Way galaxy races. Like the Quarian arcs, then you help the Quarians find a home planet, but then you need to help the Hanar find a home planet. I don't know. That's not going to
I would totally be behind a DLC that added like 6 more planets to settle. And maybe it's the problem on the planets isn't Ket, maybe it's like other stuff, but just
Holy crap, that's a lot.
That's more than the base.
That's more than launched with the game.
well, yeah, but the base game was like $50, and this DLC is going to be what, 40, probably 20. It depends on how much they are, I guess.
Yeah. I would like to see a continuation of the Benefactor storyline and the murder of Gian Garson.
Yeah, a Cerberus agents hidden among the stuff like storyline where you have to go and like suss out the rest of the Cerberus agents and get rid of them to, purify the initiative. That'd be a good one.
Because there was a moment when you were talking with Suvi about stuff that you were fighting during scans and stuff that had to do. I forget. It was somewhat tied to the Benefactor storyline in some way, and like Cora comes walking around the corner, and like she has this she pauses when she's standing there listening to us talk, and I'm like, and then she starts being super helpful, and I'm like, oh dang, I had a moment there. I was like, the innocent man's daughter, maybe.
So it could go either way. Like those things are all fantastic ideas, and I would like to be addressed sooner in DLC, but a lot of those just feel like big plot points that are going to be sequel bait rather than DLC bait.
That's very true too.
So, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll enjoy it. None of us saw the Citadel DLC coming, right?
No, and I'm like Overlord was a really good one. One of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
That was referenced.
Lair the Shadowbreaker I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah, that one was good. And then the last one of Mass Effect 2 is actually one of my favorites. When you go to the Batarian thing,
Arrival.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yep.
And those, it's like you said, it could be anything, and I'm sure they'll be fun. Hopefully.
Yeah. So, I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you made it all the way through our Mass Effect Andromeda Spoilercast Part 1, dun dun dun. What DLC podcast material are we going to have for future Andromeda discussions? No, I'm just kidding. Be sure to reach out to us on social media. Did it on purpose that time.
Social media.
It's now a thing. Tell us what you thought of Andromeda, or if you made any decisions differently than we did. If you haven't played Andromeda, I'd say we all still recommend you play it. Right, guys?
Yes, I still.
If you like that type of game and like science fiction type stuff, or either like the kind of that genre, like if it's not really your genre, I wouldn't say it's the best one to go in and start with.
If you haven't played a Mass Effect before, go play the original trilogy first.
Or skip the first one and play the second one.
Watch a YouTube video of the first one, then go to the second one.
Or just go play The Witcher.
Oh,
nah.
That might be my next one.
So reach out to us on social media. Our email, our website, Twitter, all the good stuff, the normal stuff. So we've gotten one email so far, and it was fantastic. We were all excited when we got it, so send us some more. So until next week, you guys keep it nerdy. You guys like that? I made a phrase.
Uh-huh.
All right, so for all of us here, nerd out.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.